So what I noticed on this new moon solar eclipse is it's all here. I really felt my own astral body, and I felt that for humanity. And of course, it affected everyone, national leaders, everybody, whether they were, um, you know, homeless people sleeping on the street in the corner of some part of the world, from the most disempowered, insignificant people in the sense of socially powerful to the most famous and public and powerful. Everybody's astral body got jolted with everything that came up literally from the roots of their own being. And so people may not be, for example, to go to so the end result is everybody felt super sensitive. If anyone said anything to you, it meant they were hurting you. They're stepping on something that happened to you years ago. You may not even hear what the person really said. It just activated some unforgotten, unprocessed emotional wound. And then all you're hearing is through the haze of the wound. You're not really hearing whether they did or didn't do anything to you or not. So it's very time for people to be ultra sensitive, take everything wrong, and yet that's the negative side. The positive side is all this has come up where we can really feel everything that ever happened to us, feel everything that happened to ourselves and our ancestors and our lineage, and we're just in feelings. The good side is it's all here for clearing. It's all here for cleansing. But we have to be careful we don't drown in our feelings. And that's where the challenge really came up with this new moon and the following subsequent full moon that we had, a full moon lunar eclipse on the 16th of July, just this past week, is it was like, get objective, become aware of what is really going on versus what you think is going on. That's the challenge. No one here is going to be doing anything with their mind. We also have at the same time Mercury turned retrograde on July 7th, just after the new moon, and Mercury won't turn direct until August 2nd, around there. But we're still dealing with a tremendous sense of everybody's remembering, and they're remembering it from the level of their emotions and how it made them feel. And the ability to think in a clear, objective manner as an adult will really be challenged. So we're going to see, to sum this up, in this Cancer moon cycle, which goes from July 2nd to the next new moon in Leo, July 31st, 2019, we're going to see a tremendous challenge to emotional maturity by every human being. And it's really powerful because every human being is going to find out exactly how emotionally mature they are or are not.
Well, we know Washington does not exactly qualify as being called emotionally mature, whether it's in the White House or we're seeing it in Congress in many areas. But within that, we have a huge cycle we're in right now of a Pluto-Saturn conjunction.
Yeah. What I wanted to bring up to this is that in 6 months' time, on January 12, 2020, we have Saturn and Pluto conjuncting in Capricorn at 23 degrees Capricorn Sabian symbol, which is 22 degrees, 47 minutes of Capricorn. And that's happening in 6 months. Now, the reason I'm talking about the lunar cycle right now is any solar or lunar eclipse lasts for 6 months. So the one that we've just had on July 2nd, the effect of that will last through January 2nd. The full moon lunar eclipse we had here on July 16th, the effect of that will last until January 16th because it's a 6 month period. Mm-hmm. So the important thing to know is that this particular lunar cycle of the moon in Cancer, new moon and full moon in Cancer, is setting up the prologue for what you mentioned, Michael, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of January 12, 2020. This is the prologue. This is what's going to set the foundation. We are being tested all on our emotional maturity. And it's going to be hard because when you have everything that ever hurt you, that ever hurt any of your ancestors, and you can take this argument that you saw in Washington between the 4 congresswomen and the president, where they went back to their own personal experience with prejudice as children. That was, everything came up that they'd lived through as a child, everything that they'd had to go through because of who they were and their family and their lineage. We're going to be really challenged to look at that in an objective way. We have to honor the parts of ourselves that are wounded, but we also have to say, because Mercury is retrograde as well, maybe I didn't hear that person say or do what I thought they did because I was too busy with Mercury retrograde in Leo and Cancer, remembering my childhood, remembering my past. And so I'm not really seeing or hearing anything objectively. I'm seeing it through the lens of the emotions that have been brought up and my memory of those events and how it affected me, which it's a huge challenge. It's an absolute huge challenge. But but it's the one we have to face because how emotionally mature humanity is or is not, and how much we've owned our emotional maturity or owned our lack of it. Either way, it doesn't matter. We just own where we are and work with it. That sets the foundation for how well we'll handle the Saturn conjunct Pluto in January of 2020, which only happens once every 35 years. So this is setting it up.
Now, one of the things I've looked at in my study for myself, when Pluto crossed my ascendant back almost 20 years ago, it would cross it, go retrograde, cross back over. It's like being run over by a car, forwards, backwards.
Yes.
It was nuts. Anything and everything that could change in my life changed. Saturn represents structure, and I've talked about it before in my other videos. Virtually every structure in this society is outdated by as many as 50 to 100 years. The medical, education, on down the line, in my opinion, virtually none of them realistically support the high frequency children coming in. Saturn represents structure, Pluto represents change. It could be an implosion of major levels in all of these structures, and we play follow the money. We see the money want to keep oil and gas still in position. Why? Because they're the old white men with the money. Mm-hmm. But I see the same thing at the political level. Donald Trump, I was watching him the other day. My car was being fixed and they had CNN on, and they were talking about his tit with the congresswoman. But all Donald could say was, U.S. is great. If you don't like it, leave it. Well, there's virtually nothing we've seen coming from government that has been a benefit, in my opinion, to the people out there. There are benefits for, the corporations, for their cronies, but being a benefit to all of society, no. So, to me, all of these structures are ready to go through some kind of a major collapse, and this kind of a scenario is major. One of the things I was looking at was the last time Pluto and Saturn were together. They talked about 2 times ago was 1914, 1915, mm-hmm. and Saturn and Pluto did a triple conjunction where they conjuncted 3 times, and it was the prelude to World War I. And then opened up, obviously, into World War II, and it's huge. They talk in the article I read, huge structure changes over that time period. And here we're sitting at
Well,
ground
just-
zero and the lead into this next one.